What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is ASA Studio. Once again, it's another Photoshop tutorial, and we're going to be retouching the image in the screen. Alright, so a couple of things we're going to be doing is to show you some problems you might likely encounter when editing and actually how to fix them. Alright, so in this video I'm going to be showing you how to add skin texture, how to correct skin variation in colors or skin color variation, and I'm also going to show you how to correct your exposure and use the white balance, how to whitening the eyes, and so much more. Alright, so let's get started. But before that, if you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video we post, kindly like and share. Alright, so thank you. So let's get right to business. First of all, I don't like the exposure, but if you like the exposure, you can actually leave it. But if you want to fix the exposure settings, go down to adjustment layer and then click on exposure. I won't actually advise you to use brightness or contrast this time around. I'll advise you to use the exposure. But if you want to use the brightness, whatever, it might actually work, but the exposure is just the right one for this tool. And why I want to use the exposure is because exposure actually gives you the best out of the reducing the brightness or contrast, adding brightness or contrast to it. So as I reduce the exposure to 80, you can actually see that it actually make the image look more, brought the image out the more. Alright, so you can see before and after. And one thing about the offset, it shows you should it be in the darker part, or do you want it in the darker part the most, or you want it in the brighter part the most. Okay, so I'm going to make this one 0, hit everything back to 0. Okay, and so we are good with that. So this is our before and then our after. So next thing I'm going to fix is the color. So go down to hue and saturation. I want to fix the color variation, and you can see in a cheekbone and around the nose you can see some red, and also you can see under our nose, you can see this place actually yellow in color. So I want to make the skin tone uniform, or the skin color uniform, and the right one to use is the hue and saturation. So if you come across this problem, you can actually use hue and saturation. How do you use hue and saturation? Is to get your hue and saturation adjustment layer, click on the hand tool and select the place you want to adjust. Now if you want the red to look like the yellows, you select the red, and immediately as I selected the red, you can see this place changes to red. Whatever color you have in your image, if I select this place, you see changes to magenta, which is the eyeball. So whichever color you want to correct or make look like the other color, you select that color. So I want the red, this cheekbone, to look like the yellow part. You can also make the yellow look like the red part, whichever one, but I want the red. So I click this, select the red, and this slider shows up and the red shows up. Okay, so one thing you need to do, increase the hue, just increase the hue. You're going to reset that back and then increase the slider. When you take it to the front, it will be present in the brighter part. When you take it back, it will be present in the darker part, of which red is the darker part of yellow. Okay, so in the image, I mean, not according to Photoshop. Okay, so now I'm going to select that and leave it like that, so you can see that most of the red color in the images is being selected. Okay, so I'm going to make this one, adjust it a little bit, and bring this one backwards just to get just like that. And I'm going to make this one look thinner and make this one look thinner. Alright, so you can see the before and after, and so we can actually make this one, the value here, turn it to 0, and we're back. So let's adjust the hue and change everything. As you keep adjusting the hue, you see that it actually makes the photo, the color uniform, unlike before and then after. You can see the red turning like the yellow. So I'm going to zoom out, and you can see the more you adjust, the more it turns, but I don't want it like that. I just want it to look so real. So 20, 23 is actually good for that. You can also bring it back a little bit, 22. So let's just leave it at 20. I'm going to leave it at 20 and then click OK. Alright, so that's that. I can hit the close button and you can see the before and then the after. Alright, so another thing we need to do is to remove it from the lips. So I'm going to make the foreground color black by hitting, or you can hit X on the keyboard, or you toggle this arrow, it's going to change it. And then I'm going to select the mask and then paint on it. So I'm just going to release, paint on it. Remember my flow is actually 23. You can increase your flow and make, but I like the flow like that just to make the image look, you know, real. Okay, so this is actually okay. So before and then after. So I can also remove it from the eyes. I see it present in the eyes. Okay, so now if you feel like the eyes is not white enough, you can actually do this. Now to whiten the eyes, go on, click on photo filter and choose the warming look, cool warming filter, and we have this one. You can see the cool warming filter. Also create another adjustment layer, which is the black and white layer, and this one you can actually, you know, make it, you can decrease the opacity to like 50 or so, so like 50 or so. Okay, so now I'm going to combine these two together and then I'm going to group them. So you can name them eyes whitening. EY is eyes white for short. Okay, so now create a layer mask and invert the mask with Ctrl I, and then take your brush tool. Remember white reviews, so hit X on the keyboard or press this arrow and it's going to change it. Now I want to make it visible right here, so white's going to make it visible, so I'm just going to paint over it like this and paint over this like this. It's going to actually whiten the eyes just like that, and it's going to remove some parts, and I can do this also for this part. Okay, so which is this one right here. So you can see that the eyes is actually white now compared to before and then after. So the eyes is white. Now I want to adjust the lips, saturation of the lips. I'm going to grab hue and saturation layer, of which you can use any one, and then I'm going to pick up same method we used earlier. Now select this, don't select the highlights, just select somewhere close to it. It's going to select the red, and you can actually increase the slider, and this time around push it till you select just the lips only, which is that side, and I'm going to hit 0. Yeah, this time around just increase the saturation of it, and you can see just not too much of that, which is actually okay. 20, 24. You can increase that later, but I want to remove it from the rest part, so I'm going to grab the brush tool and then make the black for ground color, increase the size of the brush, and I'm going to erase it from some certain places just like this. Okay, so let's make the flow 100, and this time so the effect will just, okay. Now I'm going to zoom in and then I'm going to decrease, hit X on the keyboard, and I'm going to make it visible around there, and then we're good. So let's make this place visible. Alright, so now we are almost getting close to where we want to. Okay, so another thing I want to do, I want the this to look like the hair color, which is a highbrow. I don't want it brown, I want it black. So to fix that, you can actually go down to filter, select color range, and I'm going to select this part of our eyes and hold down shift and keep selecting till I get more of that side. You can see I have more, and I can click on OK, and after clicking on OK, Control Z, Control, yeah, let's leave it. Let's create another hue and adjustment layer this time. Sorry. So the same thing, filter and select color range, and same thing with selected. So after you selected, you select where you want, click on OK, and it's going to select that part for you, and we can actually make it black and white back, and I show you what I mean. So let's desaturate it. Now desaturate, you can see that it's actually desaturated. Some places we don't want it to be, so I'm gonna grab the brush and then erase it from the mask where I don't need it. So I'm just, sorry, Control Z, X on the keyboard, I don't need it here, I need it around here, so just somewhere there, that's where I need it. Okay, so one thing I noticed also, I noticed the eyeball is actually too black, so the eyes, I'm going to remove that from the iris. So by hitting black X on the keyboard, then I'm going to remove that. So we have that. Okay, so we can see before and then the after. Okay, and we can double click on it and remove it from the highlight. So let's double click to bring up the blending mode and bring up the blending mode. Let's remove it from the brighter side. I'm just gonna bring it down like this and hold down Alt and make it smooth, something like that. I'm gonna take it all the way back and then okay. Alright, so since we fixed that, we can actually go to camera raw filter and check out what we can actually do. How about before that, let's do some frequency separation. So Ctrl Shift Alternate E to create a visible layer, and for you to do frequency separation, I'm going to do it manually. So hit Ctrl J twice, make this one, rename it color, enter, rename this one texture, enter. Okay, so turn off the texture layer, select the color layer, go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur it to where you don't see the details. So that's too much, just small. The more you blur, the more details you get, texture you get. So I just want small blur, and then I'm going to click OK. Go back to the texture, turn it on, go to image, apply image, and then you go to the layer above, select the color layer, which is the one below, and then blending mode, subtract. So you subtracted the texture from the color. Alright, so from the image, so you click OK, and now you can work on them both. So select the texture layer still, and then change it to linear light, and then you're back with your image. Select the color layer and group the two together. Now open up the group. For the texture layer, you're going to use the clone stamp tool. For the color layer, you're going to use the mixer tool brush. So let's choose the mixer tool brush, and now set your settings like this, or you can leave it, or make the wet less than 15, and you are good to go. So I'm just going to blend everything together, and beware, don't actually blend the highlight. So I'm just going to do this real quick. Alright, so I'm done with some frequency separation, so there is no much to do because her face is actually smooth, and all we need to do is just to add some more skin texture. But before that, I noticed something. You can see the frequency separation before and then after, before and then after. Alright, so one thing I also want to point out is the exposure of the ends, which is too bright. I'm going to click on the exposure tool again. Okay, let's use the brightness tool this time. I'm going to get rid of that. You can fix that with the brightness, or you can use the exposure tool. Let's drag it out of the group, and I'm going to close the group. This time around, go to select color range, and I'm going to select this part, which is the brighter part. You can see it, and then I'm going to click OK. So you can actually decrease the brightness, and as you decrease the brightness, you can see, but I don't want it to take away the brightness, the highlight of the eyes. So I'm going to click the X button and then select the normal brush, change our foreground and background color, and this time I want to make it black, the foreground color, so I can erase it from where I don't need it. This time I don't need it on the face, so I'm going to bring it back on the face. So you can actually go back again and bring it all the way down like that. Or if you feel like you want to use the exposure, you can go ahead, click on the exposure, and you can drag the hold down or drag the marks, replace, say replace layer mask, said yes. Okay, so you can go back to exposure, and then you can decrease the exposure from that, just like that, but you're gonna lose a lot of highlight. Let's turn down the exposure and let's see the one that best fits. So I'm not going to advise you to use that. I'm going to advise you to use the brightness tool, and I'm going to turn it on. So from that, we can go and create another time visible layer, and this time around let's add some color grading with the camera raw filter. Now with the camera raw filter, I can go to basic tool and increase the highlight. Let's take up the highlight and bring down the white. I'm also going to increase the shadows and bring down the blacks. Let's increase some texture and go down to clarity. I'm going to leave the clarity like that, increase the vibrance just like a little bit, and then I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to the curves and add some curve, but before that I'm going to make an X curve just like this. Let's reduce the curve a little bit and then take this, let's still bring it down a little bit, somewhere like so. It looks fine to me, and we're good. Alright, so I'm going to close that, go to the calibration, and at the calibration, she's fair skin. We're going to increase this to the right and take the blues to the left just more, and then I'm going to find a sweet spot for the green, which at all is actually going to follow the red direction, and I guess that's only it's okay. So you can also find some sweet spot. I guess that's too much, so just take it back a little, and then looks fine to me. And then I'm going to click OK. So another thing you're going to do is to add some skin texture, right? Yes. So another way to add some skin texture, open a new document, and this time I'm going to go where I created this 50% gray, and you can see that you can actually make this a new document, create a 50% gray 128 by 128 pieces, and then you go to filter gallery, and under filter gallery I'm going to go to the texturizer, click on texturizer, go to sandstone under texture, and make your scaling. Let's say the scaling, I'm going to reduce it, just increase it to 10. 10 looks fine, 10 or below 10, and the light is coming from the top right, so I'm going to click top right. You can select it from the drop down menu and then click on OK. Now it's going to create this. Now from that, go to edit and then define pattern and 50% gray, and I'm going to name it skin texture for image, and I'm going to click OK. Now go back to the image, and this time around I'm going to go to the adjustment layer. I'm going to click pattern, and it's going to create that skin texture, which is the last one, and then I'm going to click on OK. Now we know, so change the blending mode, either overlay or soft light. So I'm going to use soft light for that. Now that's not the end. We're going to zoom in this time around, and what we're going to do is go to filter, and then go to liquify. So let's rasterize the image, cancel. I'm going to rasterize the image first of all, and then I'm going to convert it to smart objects to make it one, and then I'm going to rasterize it again. Now I can actually affect it with liquify too. So go to liquify, and after liquify, I'm showing you a method to add skin tones. Now we're on liquify tool. Now just few things I just want to do. Take the pocket tool, and anywhere that's actually deep, you're going to press the pocket tool on it. So like a high, I'm going to make the pocket tool, make the skin tones very small there, and also this side going to make the skin tones very small there, and around this side too, just where it's actually inside. Okay, so somewhere around the highs like this. Okay, and I'm going to make it in a part like this too, also this side, and inside our nose. Okay, and inside our eyes. Now I'm going to take the bloat tool, and I'm going to make it bigger, and make the ones on our cheekbone bigger like that, and maybe on our forehead also bigger. I'm going to make this one smaller. Go to the pocket to make this side, make it bigger, and make it smaller, and make it smaller. This side, make it smaller, and make this place smaller. So let's pick on the normal tool, and I'm just going to align the image close to our head, bring it down, bring it closer, like it's actually coming together with the body. I'm going to make this one look, bring this closer and bring this closer, just to make it look real. I'm going to take this up, and bring this closer, and now I can click on OK. Now we have this. So one last thing is to create the mask tool and invert the mask, Control I, and I'm going to grab the brush tool and make it visible where I want it. Now make the flow like 20 or 23 or 15, and I'm going to paint with white. It's X, so we can make white makes things visible. So I'm just going to make it look white, and then on this side, and the nose. So you can actually hide it back where you don't want it. So this side, I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to hide it just from the side of our face, and then X to hide it from this place. Hit X on the keyboard to make it visible, make it smaller, and make it visible around our nose, somewhere there, and this side. So just here, and then I can zoom in and remove it from the eyes. I don't want skin tones there, and remove it just from the eyes, and also very small place, remove it from this side. Okay, so that's how to create your skin tones. I'm going to make it bigger and remove it from this place. X, remove it from this place. So one thing you can do, click on the blur tool, and then you can blur the ones around the side of our face, and just like that. And you can see the before and then the after, just your skin tones. I'm just going to make blur the ones around here. Okay, so one last thing again is to create more depth to the image of our face. So I'm going to create that by using dodging and burning. And dodging and burning is very simple. Just create the curve layer, make it 2, and for the first one, make it darker by bringing it down, just down like that. And the other one, double click and make it brighter like this, very bright. And I'm just going to make this one dodge and burn, burn, and dodge, DODGE. Okay, so let's turn this one off and work with this one. Invert it, click on the brush tool, and then I'm just going to keep drawing a line. Hold down shift, click, make the brush, select the brush, make the brush flow 100, and I'm going to make it smaller, and then hold down shift. Let's click on the spot first of all, make the foreground color white, so click, and then I'm just going to drag like this, then I'm going to drag like this. Okay, I'm just trying to create more depth to the image, make it smaller, this, and this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out and make it bigger, and then do this. Okay, so let's do this, like, yeah, I think that's looking okay to me. So there's places that are darker. Come to this one, in fact the mask, Control I, and then I'm going to make it present right here, make it present right, Control Z, make it smaller, present right here, present right here. I'm going to make it present right here, and I'm going to select this one, make it present right here, and make it present right here, and this, draw it bigger and somewhere here, and then we're done. So I can also make the dodge more visible there. Now it's on the burn, and go to Windows, go to properties, and then we're going to blur it. So increase the feather like this till you have this one like this. Cancel, take this one, same thing, Windows, properties, and then increase the feather just like so, not too much, so just like that. Double click on it, and let's remove this burn from the brighter side. So I'm just going to remove it from the brighter side. Hold down Alt, split it together, and then bring it back, just not too back, like that. I'm going to remove this one from the darker side because that's the highlight. I'm going to bring it back, and then hold down Alt, and then drag it up. Okay, so group the two together, and we can actually decrease the opacity to 50% or 52. You can see 1, 2. So we can also still bring it back a little, and let's finalize this by color grading. All right, so click on the color balance for color grading. You can use that to fix the color grading. Start with the highlight, and you know what to do. If you want to add a touch of green, you can add just 3% touch of green. I'm going to take the color balance above, same thing, highlight, and we can add some blues to the highlight, not too much, just a little bit, and some red. Let's add in some red. Yeah, go to the shadows. I'm just doing some nice color grading right here, and you can add some red, and you can see it's adding more dimension. The midtones, we can put in some magenta, so something like that, and some blues. Okay, so now I can actually add some saturation to the eyes, and then I can Control I to make it black and make it visible to the eyes only. Okay, all right, so one last thing is to create a stand visible layer to see. I'm going to group everything down to below and group them, and then I can turn it off and you can see before and after. So thank you guys for watching. See you in our next video. See you guys in our next video. If you like the video, kindly subscribe. If you're new to the channel, kindly subscribe. All right, so once again, this is ASAS.